We're at Cape Disappointment State Park, and in front of me is the Cape Disappointment Lighthouse. Now this is a unique area because you have Cape Disappointment Lighthouse, which is in front of me, and then over on that area about 2 miles away is the North Head Lighthouse. And so you have two lighthouses that are actually relatively close to each other on the coast here, and that's one of the few areas that you can see lighthouses that close. So you have both of them, and this is the mouth of the Columbia River. And so this Cape Disappointment Lighthouse has been lighting up and telling ships how to come into the Columbia River for all the commerce that comes up and down that river, and the shipments. There's actually off to my right here a freighter that is actually getting ready to come up the Columbia River right now. So really just a fascinating area. We are not here on an ideal day. Right now I'm standing here on the beach and it is low tide. This is what they call Waikiki Beach right here, and it's low tide. Low tide was about 5:34 tonight, and then the actual high tide, the tide's coming in, and high tide will be I think sometime after midnight tonight. So we're here during low tide, which number one isn't ideal. We don't have a nice big full moon drawing a good tide and good waves. That's number two. This area is known for what they call the King's Tide, and the King's Tide produces waves that are 25, 30 foot tall, and whenever they come in and smack against the rocks here, that water just goes shooting up into the air. And most people from this vantage point, as they're taking a photo, it looks like that wave, the water is flying all the way up to the height of the lighthouse out there. Of course, that's, you know, a little bit of perspective and everything. It's not really going that high, but the images that they get during the King Tide are phenomenal. So already I'm gonna have to do some research and figure out when is the next King's Tide. And then once I get that locked down, then I got to start planning a trip to come out here to be able to photograph the waves. The second thing is everybody always tries to come here during sunrise, and they get what they call backlit waves. And that's basically where the sun is actually kind of, the light of it is coming through those waves and lights the wave up. So you get all this motion of the wave just flying up in the air, and then you get the light from hitting it from the sunrise that is just causing them to be backlit, and really just creates some fantastic photos. I'm just not here for that today. What I am gonna focus on, because the tide is lower, the waves are not that much, I'm gonna do what I do best, and that's gonna be long exposure photography. So once I get a couple snaps of this lighthouse, beautiful, some waves coming in, I'm gonna switch and put some ND filters on, slow that shutter speed down, and really kind of smooth the water out and get a little bit different effect. I don't know if I'm gonna like that though, to be perfectly honest with you. I love long exposure photography. I love long exposure on the coast. I love just that nice flowing water and everything. I think it really just, it looks beautiful on beaches like Waikiki Beach where I'm standing here. But I think it kind of goes against the idea of the lighthouse. I mean, the lighthouse is there to protect mariners from, you know, their ship coming in and smacking up against the rocks there and breaking up and shipwrecks. And if you go down just on the other side of Astoria there's actually a shipwreck out there. And, you know, that's the purpose of the lighthouse. So I'm a little concerned if I smooth that water out and give this just a nice, peaceful, easy feeling, am I gonna get what I want? I think that's gonna depend on the actual color in the sky and whether or not the sunset, which has potential, there's some clouds out there, we look pretty clear on the horizon, so we got potential for a beautiful sunrise tonight. If I can get some nice color, long exposure photography is gonna work perfect. If I can't get that nice color and it's just kind of there, then I really think capturing the motion of the waves with you know, freezing frame action and getting them, I think is gonna be the better way to go. A little conflicted right now on how it is that I want to shoot this, but the best thing is to try both and see which one I like better. So I've talked long enough, let's get to shooting. Okay, for this first shot, you can see I'm at f/16 ISO 100, 1/100th of a second. I've got it framed up so that I'm capturing the water in the bottom of the frame there, like as a wave comes in, and that's number one, what my goal is there. Just off there in the distance, and he's not quite in frame, as that freighter I talked about earlier. I don't think he's gonna end up in the photo. That's okay, not really what I want anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and try a shot here, see what it looks like. And I've actually got this set on continuous high-speed shooting right now. I'm going to back that off because I don't need to be taking a whole bunch of frames right now while I'm trying this. As you can see, I'm not blowing out any highlights right now. I'm not clipping anything. Let's go ahead and zoom in and just kind of get a feel for how this looks. There's the lighthouse up there, which looks good. And then we've got the rock cliffs down here. We've got a little bit of wave action going that we've kind of frozen along the way. Again, they're not big waves by any sense of imagination, especially with what this area is capable of producing. But we do have some motion out there. I'm gonna roll this back a little bit and kind of get a little feel for it. I think overall the exposure is where it needs to be, the composition's where it needs to be. It's just a matter of whether or not I can get maybe a couple waves that are gonna come in that'll give me something. And then from there, we'll switch over to that neutral density filter I talked about, start working on smoothing this water out. So go ahead and change that setting. Like I said, I don't need it on continuous high speed. Now, when everybody comes out here and shoots the king tide and those huge waves and everything, continuous high speed is perfect, because whenever you do that, you're trying to capture the wave at the exact moment that it is peaking, just as it starts to fall. I mean, right at that crescendo. And by doing that, you really are able to capture it a lot easier with a continuous high speed shutter. I don't have big waves out here, so continuous high speed shutter really isn't necessary. There we go, we just fired off a bunch of them again. Now, one of the things you'll notice as I'm taking these photos that you don't normally see is I'm wearing my backpack. The rest of my photography equipment is in the backpack still, and as the tide is coming in, I don't want to get in a situation where I get a wave that I'm not expecting come washing up and hit the backpack. So shooting on the beach, I always try to make it a habit of having the backpack on. If I need to, I can grab the tripod and run as quick as possible. I also don't go very far from the tripod. And if this tripod were to ever start moving or, you know, start shifting in the waves or whatever, I'm right here to grab it and make sure it doesn't topple over. I was down in Malibu 2 years ago and out shooting on the beach, and I was capturing the waves as they were going out, nice long exposure. And the white foam with the waves that are going out and you do long exposure just kind of creates a little like leading line that just takes your eyes right out to sea. And off to my right was another photographer, and she'd set her camera down and the waves started coming in. She wasn't wearing her camera pack on her, and so she immediately turned to go grab the camera pack, make sure that it wasn't going to get soaking wet. And when she turned back around, her camera just went whoop, right into the salt water. And she had a very nice Nikon D750, and that thing was just toast. I mean, as soon as a camera hits salt water like that, you're just not going to recover it. So I'm always very careful to make sure I'm never further than a handhold away or an arm's length away from my tripod, my photography gear when I'm out shooting on the coast like this, because I don't want that thing to topple over. And next thing you know, I got to go home to Jen and say, uh-oh, I need another camera. That's not gonna happen. So when you're shooting the coast, make sure keep your bag on, keep your gear next to you. Don't go too far away from the tripod, especially if that surf is coming in. Just a little tip to keep you out of divorce court. For the sunset, I've relocated. I'm now sitting up on top of this pile of just old logs, and which is sitting on top of the jetty. And those waves, they just wash these logs up on shore, and these logs are just insanely heavy. They're mostly waterlogged, and they just sit up here, and whenever the waves really get moving, these logs will start moving with the waves. And it's pretty impressive to see again during that king tide. I've relocated up here, and I'm tired of fighting with the waves down there. And although they were small and minuscule, still that water rushing in, you know, and rushing back out. It's about 7:20 now. Sunset's supposed to be in about 35 minutes. Those clouds that are off to my right have not moved much, and it doesn't look like there's going to be enough wind or enough movement to get them into frame. So I'm kind of left with this boring sky. The only thing I can hope is that whenever that sun starts to go down, that it really starts to pick up some nice color in the sky itself without the clouds. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It'll be a crapshoot. I hope it happens, but if not, you know, a big part of this trip was to scope the area out and really figure it out. So when we know already where we want to be, we know already that we want to be here for King's Tide, and we just gonna have to make a trip to come back up here, and hopefully the conditions during that are ideal, and we get the lighting we want, we get the color we want, we get the waves we want, and of course we get the photo we want. Well, as I had predicted, the clouds didn't move into frame. There's a little bit of color in the sky. You can see there on the monitor, there's just a little bit. It's nothing spectacular. The light on the lighthouse has started to light up a little bit, so hopefully I can capture a couple frames that have that in there. It's such a small light though that it's not like it's really going to illuminate any of the sky around it. Been sitting out here for a little while watching the surfers out there. There's two of them that have been catching some waves. They've progressively been getting bigger throughout the evening as the sun has gone down. So it's been entertaining to watch those guys, and it sure makes me miss living in San Diego, I can tell you that much. You know, this is a great spot for photos, obviously. I mean, it's worth the trip out here. We just didn't have the conditions we were hoping for. It's kind of one of the challenges, though, whenever you do travel photography, and you know, you set a trip and you set the time that you're going to be someplace, and you hope the conditions work out, and sometimes those conditions just don't work out, and that was definitely the case here. But still glad to be here and glad to be out shooting photos and just seeing this beautiful part of the country. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did like this video, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and of course ring that bell so you're notified next time I upload a video from my photography adventures. Until then, happy shooting.
you.